Well, it looks like the wet weather isn't done with us in Southern California yet. March is closing out with a couple of extra wet, soggy, gray, gloomy days.
And even though I've personally been sort of under the weather the last couple of days, I'm not letting this weather get to me at all. I'm not feeling gloomy in any way. Much the opposite, in fact. I have just had my 40th trip around the sun complete and celebrated my birthday. Now, I'm not a big birthday guy. I'm especially not a big birthday party guy for childhood reasons. Birthday parties and I just never really had a good history together. But this occasion was very different.
Ooh, look at the mess in here.
I've been avoiding big birthday parties longer than I've been avoiding cleaning out this van. But this year, for 40, officially getting old, so old, Allie convinced me that, you know what? You need to do something. Other people want to do something for your birthday. People want to get together. Just let other people celebrate and do what they want to do. And I sort of finally agreed, mostly because I was thinking, you know what, the day after I turn 40, I'm going to be sitting there going, should I have done something with this? You know what I mean? So while I was busily traveling around the world and the country and going back and forth to Florida and going back and forth to LA and filming stuff and then going on a birthday trip with my son and my dad and my brother. It's like all of our birthdays around the same time, so we all took off and went up to sort of central eastern California, up in the mountains and Death Valley in the desert and stuff, just to get away together for a while, spend a little family time. While all that was going on, Allie was here putting together a huge birthday party for me, inviting all these people that I haven't talked to, some of them in 10 years, other people that I just haven't seen in a long time, inviting people sort of from different bubbles of my life all to the same party, like people that don't normally mix together, friends I have from Disney and friends I've got from road trips and friends I had from the band and my family and just like all these different friend groups mixing together.
Uh-oh, looks like we got a leak.
Another leak in this van.
Oh, man, come on.
I really need a shop. I need a van guy over here. Anyway, to put this kind of in perspective, one of the last big birthday parties I was supposed to have as a kid at Majeska Park in Anaheim with my brother, because our birthdays are so close together, we always combine parties. We were supposed to invite our whole classes. He invited his whole class. My class was smaller because we had combined grades. I invited everybody that was in my class, probably 10 or 15 kids. And it's embarrassing still, but not one of them showed up. Nobody. I mean, my family showed up. My family's always been good to me, but literally none of the friends, none of the enemies, nobody from the class. I went to all their birthdays at the same park, and I remember waiting there on the side of the road all sad, and it feels like it happened to somebody else, not to me, because it was so long ago, but I just remember waiting and like nobody came. So after that, I didn't want to have any more big embarrassing birthday parties, you know. Pretty much from that point on, when my parents wanted to do something, it was mostly family, maybe a few friends, 3 or 4 friends, a handful of friends. I let them do a little something when I was 16 or 18, but I really had no other big birthday parties. There were parties where my band invited their friends or my ex invited her friends to, get together and drink and whatever that happened to be near my birthday, but really weren't for my birthday. And there was a famous birthday planned for me by an ex after I was told we were getting divorced and the whole thing was going down, where I got really super glutened by the party. It was on the day of my great uncle's funeral. I had been a pallbearer that morning, and I was told I wasn't allowed to cancel the surprise party when I found out about it. And then I got there, got super glutened and sick, and then got yelled at all the way home for embarrassing somebody and ruining the party they planned for me. So, I have not been into it. I let Allie throw me a few little shindigs with maybe 10 people max in the last couple of years, for which I was grateful, and it was nice to have a few select friends that you know are going to show up and you know are going to be nice and all that kind of stuff. And this is all for context, by the way. It's not stuff that I cry about late at night to myself every night. I've gotten over this years ago. At least I think I have. But basically, for context's sake, that's why I've just not been comfortable with having birthdays. Didn't want to plan any birthdays or anything like that in recent years. Just didn't feel like it. So you can understand why I was a little nervous about all this going down. I was like, no one's going to show up, or if people do show up, they're going to have a bad time. Everyone's going to be staring at each other and leave early. Anyway, whatever emotional damage that I had from previous birthdays, all of that has been erased by this past week's birthday party. Allie got all those people together, and I don't know what I was expecting. There were so many faces I didn't expect to show up. There were so many, I don't know, not as an insult to them, but just because I'm like, as if I'm not that important. No one's going to, and all these people came. They were all getting along, all the people from different walks of life, like sort of excited to meet each other and telling stories and weird stuff. Now, I discovered something about myself, which is that I definitely still have social anxiety. Like, you think you kind of outgrow it. You're like, I don't really suffer from that so much anymore. Turns out, no, I've just gotten better at managing my life and constructing my life in such a way that I don't normally have to deal with so many people that I get that kind of social anxiety. So that was a little bit of a factor there. I felt really uncomfortable and awkward, especially being the center of attention like that. I know that's ironic because I can get on a stage with a guitar in front of 1,000 people, it would be fine. But if you're in a room with 50 people and they all know you and they're all looking at you and talking to you, it's a little overstimulating. I'm more of a one-on-one, maybe 5-on-5, 10-on-10 type of person, max. So I felt a little bit uncomfortable, but that was no shade on the party. It was incredible. I was so touched and so honored by the people who came out that gave a little time and all that. I was not expecting it. And not only did people come out and give me their time and everything, I was already getting emotional, getting choked up. In fact, I was so uncomfortable that when they, and like overwhelmed and overstimulated, that when they were going to sing happy birthday to me, I had one of my Halloween masks of my own face, which I just pulled down and wore, just so that I felt less like everyone was staring at me. And, like, thanks guys, blow out the candles. So I was just so honored just by people showing up. And then what really knocked me out was, and I could not believe it, did not expect it. Like I said, haven't had a big birthday party in a long time. And you get to an age where this doesn't happen anymore, but a bunch of people brought me birthday presents even. Like, I opened presents, and I swear to you, even though I've had a lot of birthdays since, all I could do was flash back to being like 10 or 11 or whenever that horrible birthday party was, and sitting there watching my brother open all those presents. And here I was, like, opening presents, like, all these people came and brought presents for me. For me, I was having such a, I'm still having a hard time. I was having such a hard time, like, not choking up or anything. So I mostly put them all, it's like, you put them over there, and didn't open them. But just like when I would walk by them, I would get this lump in my throat, and someone's like, you need to open your presents for everyone. I was like, I couldn't do it. Speaking of presents, you want to talk presents? My buddy Spike from Spike's Breezeway Cocktail Hour on YouTube and the band The Hula Girls showed up and was like making, oh, that's cool, look at that, making tiki cocktails and stuff for people. He actually sliced his hand open with a knife that morning, like doing the prep work and stuff, cutting like fruit or whatever he was doing, and spent the whole day and the whole night with this bandaged, bloody, bleeding hand of wound, still making the drinks and I'm like, are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital and get some stitches? Like, like, I'm gonna get super emotional, so I gotta be careful, but just everybody had these little things like that meant so much to me. It meant so much for me that they were all there. And like I said, I just eschewed, tried to avoid opening the presents and just kept that till later. But Spike had been mixing those tiki drinks, and then by the end of the night, everybody had like one or two. Rarely ever do I have a adult beverage. I had like one or two, and people started to dwindle off. Well, we gotta go and all that kind of stuff. And thank you for coming and giving lots of hugs and stuff like that. I really wish I had got to spend more time with people individually, but with that many people and they're all like wishing me happy birthday, at least I got to spend a few minutes seeing everybody, and at least I got to walk around and see them all talking to each other, which was really cool and meant a lot to me that my friends were making friends and stuff like that. Hey, I've been looking for that glasses case. Ooh, a Disney toothbrush. I'm gonna need that. My dentist just retired. Help me, dentists! Anyway, we eventually got to a part of the night where things had dwindled down enough and there were few enough people there that the friends who were left really started to be like, come on, please, just open a present. And Allie really wanted me to open some present that she was like, oh, I've been working on this big present for you, and I got together with people to do this present for you, and I knew she really wanted me to open. I'm like, let me open it at home. No, you gotta open it here. And there were few enough people by that point that I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and open the presents. And if I thought that I had been like emotional or like touched or I don't know, overwhelmed before, the present that I unwrapped bowled me over. Like, just knocked. In fact, let's go. We should probably go check it out. Ugh. For years,
and years here in Randomland. We've had a private Facebook group for friends of the show, as I like to put it. It's not everyone's cup of tea because it's pretty heavily moderated to stay family friendly and spam free and all that. But we've had this Facebook group named after the Sometimes Vlog, and they named it themselves, called the Sometimes Mob. Sorry for the mess in here. We really have not had a chance to do any spring cleaning. I've been running around all over, and then the birthday stuff and the trips and everything, so just ignore the mess. Pardon the disaster around here, please. Anyway, Ali got together with the Sometimes Mob group, and apparently all of these wonderful, incredible people who all have their names in this card, all of these people got together, pooled their resources, and bought me this present that I unwrapped. And I swear to you, my brain I went to another universe when I saw what this was, when I opened it. I could not believe this. I unwrapped this. This is a signed letter that Mark Twain wrote in 1886, November 4th, 1886 to be precise, from the Murray Hill Hotel, a place he often stayed right near where Grand Central is today in Manhattan, to a Miss Samuel complying with her request for a signed photograph. And he sent her this letter, and right there at the bottom, look at that, John Hancock. S.L. Clemens. I still, hold on. Now, obviously, this is literally the coolest thing I've ever been given. This is the coolest thing I have ever owned. I mean, you guys already know from some of the adventures that we've been on that I'm a huge Mark Twain fan. But even look around my house, you're going to see Mark Twain, Mark Twain, Mark Twain, Mark Twain. I could be wrong, but I think there's a few Mark Twain books on this shelf as well. Mark Twain. That's not even all. That's the sad part. Over inside my office, which is also a huge mess, the bunker, the lair over here, back behind these bowls that Bob Gurr gave me, Mark Twain's letters. Look at all those volumes back there. And this is where you're going to have to indulge me in a little more story time. Sorry for the length of all this. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it. This is sort of off the cuff. Obviously, Mark Twain's books and his history have been a passion of mine for years and years and years. And I bought these volumes here under incredibly, skint circumstances. Let's put it that way. Now, I have a health issue. It's called celiac disease, and it's basically where a certain protein in gluten, it's a byproduct of basically wheat, becomes an autoimmune trigger. Not the only trigger, but the main primary trigger for basically your body destroying itself on the inside, particularly like in your intestines, your stomach, all that kind of stuff. And all because of one bad doctor. It remained undiagnosed for years. So they told me I didn't have it and that I just should not avoid eating gluten. That was just a fad, all this kind of stuff. And especially in my sort of late 20s, mid to late 20s, it got so horrible. I'm like bleeding out of everywhere. I'm anemic. They can't figure out what's going on. I'm like horribly losing weight. I'm very sick all the time. Everything I eat makes me horribly sick. I can't leave the house unless I know where every bathroom is along the way, or unless I don't eat for 2 days. It's a horrible, horrible situation that you can, some of you with friends with celiac or loved ones who have highly sensitive celiac disease or very advanced celiac disease will know what I'm talking about. And it was awful. I genuinely thought I was going to die. And it wasn't, in fact, until I talked to a neighbor of mine over the fence, Wilson style, about how, like, dude, I'm pretty sure I'm going to die. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I've got a child, I've got a life, and I think I'm pretty sure this is going to kill me. And he was like, have you investigated celiac disease? Because he had celiac disease. And he goes, that's exactly how I felt and stuff. And it wasn't until after that I switched doctors, went through medical records. Anyway, it's a long story, but I basically found the original doctor had sent me to a GI doctor, and they'd done all the scans and scopes and stick all the cameras through your body and stuff like that. And they had found that I had celiac disease 7 years beforehand and never told me. Anyway, it's a little exasperating, but the TLDR on that is, for years I was just getting sicker and sicker. I was doing some graphic design work at home. I was trying to still play shows with the band. I was never a rich guy. That was never a profitable scene to begin with. But you can imagine, I was out of work for years. I was basically a stay-at-home dad with my kid and just ill and sick and in chronic, horrible pain all the time. And my one luxury, the one thing there were even moments, literally, where I would crack up in ramen, which was plenty of pure gluten. It's like the worst thing for you. I was cracking ramen like in half and halves again. So I would only be eating a little food. So I made sure the rest of my family was eating and all that kind of stuff. But the one luxury that I had when I was living in Long Beach for a while or in Orange County is that we had really good used bookstores. Acres of Books in Long Beach, We had the Book Baron in Anaheim, and I would go and crawl through the used bookstores and get paperback books, Mark Twain, read all the literature, read all the classics. It's the only thing I could do at home. And I got really into like the biographies of Mark Twain. I got really into the history and reading books about the history of things that he kind of was tangentially related to. I got really nerdy about Mark Twain. And in the very early days of sort of Amazon allowing people to sell their used books and then like thrift books and what are the other ones, like Abe books and all that stuff, you could find some pretty expensive and rare books that people would throw up for like a couple bucks. Or when libraries would start to discard books, you could get books for like 50 cents or $1 or something like that, plus like $1.50 shipping because of the media mail. Well, while I was reading Mark Twain's books and biographies about him, they would reference a lot of his letters that were in the Bancroft papers at Berkeley and all this stuff. And I knew that they had published these volumes of Mark Twain's letters, several of them. Not complete, they never completed it. But brand new, these things were a pretty hefty price. I mean, for me, they might as well have been a fortune. They might have well cost $1 million. I can't remember, $80 or something like that. And some of the ones that were out of print, like the volume 1 and 2 and stuff like that, were commanding like $200 and $300 sometimes, like on Amazon or on eBay or different places. But I discovered some of those websites where library discards were happening, and I would go check them every single day. And finally, one by one, I managed to find these books, one by one, like I said, discarded from the library and sold for like $1, $2. I think I did a graphic design job for somebody one time and got like, I carved out $30 of my fee to buy, and that was the most I ever spent on one of the volumes. I can't remember if that was 2 or 3 or something like that. And I bought these books of Mark Twain's letters. And there's so many letters, lots of footnotes, lots of historical context in here. And I just nerded out on these. I mean, this one's like well over 400 pages here. They've got some of the, look at that. They got some of the facsimiles, pictures of the actual letters and the handwriting. And so these to me were just like comfort in my illness, like another project to get into history, getting all nerdy about reading this stuff. And I don't know, I felt close to the guy. I felt like I understood him, you know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So things got better from the very darkest years, you know, not my health or anything like that, but my ex got a better job and we moved to a better house in Brea, and I had, started to do more with my band again and get that kind of rolling again. I was trying to make things better. So our life was improved, doing a lot more graphic design jobs. I'd gone back to school and all this stuff. And, so I would look at eBay like late at night. It was still hard, you know, still sick and still all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really living my dreams. I wasn't out touring and stuff anymore. So ill. And already things in that relationship were not going good. And the band was only a few years from coming apart and stuff. And I could just remember going on eBay, and because of these letters, right, they're not the full thing. Mark Twain's estimated to have written some crazy number, hundreds of thousands of pieces of paper, hundreds of thousands of letters. And I would go on eBay, and there were all these other letters that were in private hands that, you know, some of his grandkids had and sold in an attic or whatever, found in an attic and sold or whatever. And I'd find all these letters on eBay, and I'd go on eBay and like look at the images just to read these additional letters that weren't in these books. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they don't cost what a George Washington or an Abe Lincoln letter costs. They're a couple $1,000s as opposed to, you know, 5 figures or whatever like that. But still, anything 4 figures might as well have been $1 billion to me. There's no way I could ever afford them. But I remember I just used to dream, like, man, that would be the ultimate bucket list, coolest thing ever, would be to own something that the guy that wrote The Innocents Abroad or Huckleberry Finn wrote with his own hand. Like, wouldn't that be so cool just to have something Mark Twain signed? And I would just dream of that and be like, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Like, that would be the way other people will look at someone with a Ferrari or a mansion or a Rolex or whatever else they want in the world, or someone traveling to Japan or the moon or whatever. I would just look at that and go, wouldn't that be like the ultimate coolest thing in the world? And I never thought in a million, now I'm going to get emotional again. I never thought in a million billion years I would ever have anything like that. And even as like my life's improved and we've been doing Randomland for all these years, and I have a wonderful partner, celiac disease was diagnosed, and I've been on the gluten-free diet and healing for 10 years now and all that kind of stuff. Even in my moments where I did have a little extra or this or that, or I sold a bunch of signs, you know, even before when I had sold a bunch of those wooden signs, for a split second there before all the medical bills started coming in, and I bought the van, I almost didn't buy the van because I was like, well, maybe I should buy one of those letters. Like, no, I can't do that. I got to buy something for the show. I can't be selfish like that. And I've even looked at them, and like for a while they were doing like payment plans on some of the sites that sold historic documents. And I would look at them and go like, maybe I could do like a payment plan over a really long period of time and own one of the cheap ones, and stuff. And I always thought, nah, like, I don't deserve to have that. I got to go out and work. I got bills to pay. I've got a family to feed. I've got literally a family to feed and rent to pay and bills to pay. And now a lot of medical bills and debts and things. I'm like, it's irresponsible. I can't do that. And so even now, which is the happiest and best off I've ever been in my whole life. It's not perfect, but I'm not complaining because believe me, I've been in some dark, hellhole-ish places some nights in my life, out on tour especially. Even now, I was like, I'll probably never own. I remember telling Allie earlier this year, she must have been listening, I'll never own one of those, but I still like to look. I still followed a bunch on eBay. I would go read them for the nerd purposes all the time. I was like, that would be kind of the coolest, most ultimate thing. So let's go look at it again. So when I unwrapped this, I can't even tell you, like, what was going through my head. It was all that. It was like these weird flashbacks, like a movie. So like years of almost like despair and thinking like, I have no future. I'm going to die. Literally thinking I'm going to die. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no food. I have no money. I'm sick. And just like fantasy, just this little escapism fantasy. Like, wouldn't that be cool? And looking at these letters and looking at this stuff. And like all that flashed, like that part of my life just flashed before my eyes. I haven't thought about this stuff in 10 years, And after that party, I had like a pretty gnarly headache for a couple of days. I was like, I think I was sick. I got kind of glutened a little bit. Afterwards, I was eating something that was kind of risky. And I was sick for a couple of days. I had a really gnarly migraine too at the same time. It only happens to me a few times a year, but it was like one of those light sensitive ones. I'm like laying in the dark in my other room. And even with the migraine, with the headache and everything, I would just put this in the room and I have been looking at this for like 2 or 3 days and I cannot stop. I held it in that night. Like I held it in pretty good, I think. I handed it to other people like, look how cool this is. And I tried to ignore it. Then later I opened some other presents and stuff from those people, which was also really overwhelming. Like David from Fresh Baked gave me a cool book about samurai. Peter and Kitro Ordinary Adventures gave me a cool ET on a bike. Action figure, and some other friends gave me some cool stuff. Like I even got toys. I even got the toys I never got when I was 11. And I was having all these thoughts to myself, but I was keeping it all in and being cool and trying to be funny and laugh it off and let's hug and let's hang out. And the next morning I woke up, I'm not gonna lie to you, and you're not any less manly for admitting this, but I woke up the next morning and I was just so emotional, like leftover emotions. I like woke up kind of sobbing a little bit for like 30 minutes. Like I couldn't help it. I was like emotional, like happy emotional, like the birth of a child kind of emotional or something. It's like something that deep inside of me that I didn't know was broken had been like sort of healed or something, and it was like therapeutic or something, like released the crying. And it's not just that this was like such an awesome present, it's this. So not all that I mentioned, but then this, like looking at this. I know she only reached out to a few people, and as soon as they like got all their resources together, she closed it off. And so most people didn't even know about it or anything, but just the fact that many people, this thing's coming in handy. Just the fact that many people, I'll show you their names so you don't have to look at my face right now. Just the fact that many people gave a darn at all, like cared enough to even do anything. And then what it was and everything, and then Allie, like I remember just thinking, like, man, that girl really loves me. Like, do me a favor, if you're young enough and you haven't been married or you haven't been in a lot of relationships or you're dating or whatever, make sure you never get married to, move in with, or do anything like that with somebody that you're not 100% sure really likes you. If you can learn anything from the mistakes that I've made, it doesn't matter how much you love a person. It doesn't matter how much you're willing to give. It doesn't matter how many emotions you're willing to put in the situation. If the person just at the core is just like, not sure about you, isn't convinced, don't spend your life chasing after someone who's eventually going to be like, I didn't want this. I didn't like you in the first place. And just to know that somebody like likes you, cares about you, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that means everything in the whole world. Just to see my family there and my kid. I got to spend time with my son right before that and all that. And then just to have this wonderful girl. They're like the luckiest person in the universe. And I've gone from like the unluckiest person in the universe sometimes. And I never blamed other people. I've never been the kind of personality that blamed other people. I'm always the kind of personality that blames myself to a fault. To where like I would get super depressed. I've been, go to therapy for crazy depression. They're like, you need to stop blaming yourself for everything. So I never like was bitter and angry at the world. It was more bitter and angry at myself. Like, oh man, I made bad choices. Here I am sick and dying. I probably deserve it and all that kind of stuff. And so that's my direction of not, being smart. Instead of being mad at everybody else, I tend to do the opposite. I get mad at myself. And that took a while for the quest for positivity and trying to like be positive. I can't control the circumstances. And to start admitting like, well, this sucks. And I didn't do this to myself, but I'm the only one that can control it or change it or make it better, right? And all that kind of stuff. That did really improve my life. It's a whole sidetrack. See, I'm very distracted right now. This has like caused all these like deep thoughts to swirl around in me to get all philosophical and everything the last couple of days. And it just knocked me over. So I haven't been out doing, well, other than the migraine. That's why I haven't been out, and I haven't even recovered my footing yet to get back to filming, get back to you guys, because I've just been tripping for days. And, okay, there we go. I feel less emotional. And just this. I don't deserve this, And so or anything like this. Or anything that I've got, or anything that I have or been able to do, and people have been sending me such nice messages for my birthday, all of you guys, and nice comments and birthday cards in the mail and stuff, and I tend to ignore good comments and bad comments. It's just move on with your life. If you're willing to believe all the good things people say about you and inflate your head, then all the bad things are going to get to you too. So just, moving on, try to go, oh yeah, great videos, oh thank you. But to have so many people tell me that, like, whatever this thing has like meant a lot to them or done anything for them in their life, and to see that like it meant enough for them to send a card or to do this is like really overwhelming for me. And this means more than like the play button did or the different things that have happened throughout the years. The fact that so many people like support the whole project and the quest for positivity and the Randomland videos and the adventure to do something family friendly and trying to be positive. And I'm not a perfect person by any means. I've screwed up a lot in my life, and I continue to screw up. It's because I was such a negative, cynical person and bitter at myself and cynical that I'm on the quest for positivity. I'm always trying to do better and be better, and I always thought maybe if I shared that, maybe somebody out there would connect with it and understand and all that stuff too. So to like get it back like that, really means more to me than you guys will ever know. So to all the people who have, gone on to join the Facebook group or subscribed or left nice comments over the years on Instagram, or sent these birthday cards, or joined Patreon, or did this. And I wanted to read all the names, but now I know I'll never get through that. I wanted to sit here and read all these names off and thank you all individually. There's no way I can do this. It's funny, Allie used to do this all the time. If she got emotional, she'd like find something and fan herself. Like, why is she doing that? And it's like, oh, it's getting hot in here. That's how I get it. There's no way I'll make it through all these names. And this is like a dumb video, right? This is not a 100,000 view, cool, new action-packed land opening up in a theme park, or an awesome Route 66 road trip video, or whatever. But I knew I couldn't do anything else. I knew we couldn't do anything else. And by the way, I'm starting work on like a 10th anniversary video. This is the 10th anniversary of Randomland is about to happen, so it's almost Randomland's birthday. I knew I just couldn't even start working on that stuff until I tried to find a way very eloquently and inarticulately to express some part of my deep gratitude. Yeah, I don't get like this usually. Usually if I like turn a camera on, I'm like, well, all right, we're there, we're positive, we're pumped. Usually I save my emotions for the private times, but Whatever, let it stay in. I don't care if it's embarrassing. Yes, I'm a big crybaby. I'm a big old 40-year-old crybaby. Let it stay in. Whatever. I just really appreciate it. I really appreciate it all. I cannot tell you guys how much I've appreciated 10 years of people leaving comments and supporting and believing in the dream and the project and all that kind of stuff. And of course, things have evolved and changed. Lots of other people are kind of in the mix doing the same stuff as us, and it's just the whole landscape has changed, right? It's become so much more common. But back then, really, it was nothing. You didn't start this type of thing. Dude, you could never get rich or famous or not even to a very small scale. You couldn't do anything like this. Everyone was like, what are you doing? You're a loser. You're filming yourself and putting it on the internet. You're going to theme parks? What the heck are you doing? What? Who cares about that road? And who cares about that old historical thing? And it's been the most gratifying, wonderful thing in my life. I remember at the end of all that sickness, at the end of everything, just when I got my diagnosis and just when I had kind of broke up my band and was ready to move on to something new, something else, something different. And I was finally like, was kind of trying to start the pre-quest for positivity and all that. It's when I got divorced and just got thrown into the most horrible time. No house no more. No house no more. That's bad grammar. No more house. No more kid in the house. To walk away from like what little stability in your life that you have and know that you have to walk out. Completely start your whole life over again. And the one thing that I had done is I had started working on like these videos, and I had started to film them enough that there was a few people watching. And when I say a few, I mean a few, 50 people, I don't know. And I just remember having the conversation with myself, like, instead of getting bitter, instead of getting like in the depths of despair about this, which I was, instead of focusing on that, maybe I should focus my energy on these silly videos. Because one of the few things that got to me and made me feel better was kind of a distraction, watching silly videos, laughing, getting outside of real life and finding something, kind of nice to escape to, or history, or those letters for me. And I thought, if I could make 10 people smile, 50 people smile per day, like, that's so much better than me wallowing in my sadness and all the stuff that was going on, all the stress. And somehow, 10 years later, I find myself, a decade later, that's crazy. My mind is blown with that. 10 years later, I find myself in this crazy situation where it also meant a lot to so many other people. And like all this time, it meant a lot to me when people would watch and do all this stuff. But then to see how much it means to other people and have people express that back to you. And that's why I had to make this little dialogue here, because I needed to say the most important thing that I've ever said and I'm ever going to say to all of you, especially considering that there's lots been going on in my life that nobody knows about, and just health things and just different stuff like that the past couple of years, especially recently. And the most important thing that I have to tell you, that I will ever have to say to any of you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is how grateful that I am. And just thank you. That's it. In a nutshell, all this blabbering. I can't even look you in the eye. I'm going to get too emotional. Just thank you. And 10 years is not the end. 10 years is just the beginning, just getting started. There's so many other adventures and ideas. Like I said, I'm just starting to work on the 10-year anniversary video and finding clips and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll do some kind of clip show or special. I haven't really thought about it. This month is the 10-year anniversary month. It's all wet and soggy outside. All my travel plans are kind of heimbucked at the moment. But there's a bunch of stuff I want to film in Southern California before we start getting all the road trips and getting really crazy in May and summertime. We're going to have all this crazy stuff going on, assuming that, everything is going fine. And we have plans to travel in the fall, and there's all the haunt season again and all this crazy stuff. Midsummer Scream. There's so much stuff. But here in this little pause before, while people do their taxes, and before getting ready for I almost said the 100th anniversary. The Disney 100th thing is throwing me off, but the 10th anniversary Randomland thing and working on that video is going to happen. And I can't remember what I was going to say about that. But anyway, I'm working on that video, and I've just been looking through 10 years of just all the craziness and thinking like, man, we haven't even begun to do all the stuff that I really wanted to do yet. So it's like, there's so much coming. There's so much coming. And I told my kid, I was like, I've been waiting for like 8 years to go and do like the Lincoln Highway and do all these there's so many different projects. I don't even want to name them because other people always hear me say them and then they run off and do them. And then I'm like, no, so, but there's so many, I was like, I've been waiting 8 years. Come on, hurry up and turn 18 so you can come with me. We could spend months out there and all these different projects and things. And Gold Rush stuff and just so many different things. Traveling overseas more to other certain theme parks and places that there's lots of stuff. There's so many different projects, so many adventures, so many historical locations, so many road trips to do. And there's so much in my brain all the time that I would love to get to and we're going to do. But, and so I'm always looking ahead. I'm always looking ahead at projects. I'm always looking ahead and forward at this stuff and never looking backwards. And I think that's why it really caught me off guard to stop and hitting the 10th year of Randomland and obviously 40. My friend Bruce, he left a comment, I think like on the Patreon thing or something. And he was like, hey man, don't worry. 40 is just a number. It's a big number. It's just a number. I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of being old. And before anybody says like, oh, you're not old, you're just a baby, you're only 40. That's like saying, you only lost 2 toes, I lost a whole foot. 40's pretty old. And I like it that way. It feels good. And it's not the years. It's the mileage. Anyway, I don't know what I was talking about. But anyway, it's a big year. Lots of stuff like that. Lots of big reasons to look backwards. And all those lovely comments, the cards, and people write such nice stuff, and I'm like telling me all this stuff, stuff I can never share with everybody else, but just stuff that just gets me right in the heart. And I got a heart condition, so I can't take a lot of stress. I try to avoid stressful situations or overly emotional situations. Even I'm like but I think this one got me in the heart in a good way. And for all the stress that's been going on lately, it's been interesting, and I guess I've gone on too long. I've already done my duty. I should have gone home and slept well, but I did want to show you one other present, Mark Twain related over here. My friend Ernie got me found this for me, this old vintage FNB doll of Mark Twain. I own a doll now. I'm a doll guy now, I guess. This is awesome. I don't know where to put this. I got to remove him from this box. He's been waiting 50 years to get out of this box and be enjoyed. But just overwhelming. Just lots of stuff. Oh, and before I go, there was one other present that I got, which is very, very random. A box of ninjas! Every 80s kid's dream. A box of generic, made for Toys R Us Army Man style ninjas. And I was like, this is so silly and random, but I kind of can't wait to open this and put out all the little ninjas and go full. Whatever happened to ninja movies? Are they making any good ninja movies lately? So I haven't heard of them. Anyway, guys, I'll be around on the morning announcements for Patreon. I'll be around on the podcast for Patreon. I'll be around in the Sometimes vlog on the other channel. That's back. That's going down again. And a lot more Randomland coming very soon. I gotta get to the edit on the 10th anniversary one. That's gonna take me a while, on and off. So you'll see the episodes kind of spaced out. It's because in between I'll be working on this big project. But other than that, we're back, baby. I cannot wait for year 10, season 10, year 10. My gosh, has it been that long? See, in about 30 years, Marty, we've done your duty. We've done your duty. What am I saying? You've done your duty. Anyway, guys, my brain is now tired. I'm exhausted. I'm emotionally overstimulated. And I love you all. In short, thank you. And we'll see you real soon. You've done your duty. You can go home and ninja well. Ah, look at all those ninja. They're finally all set up, peacefully fighting. But wait, what's this? Roar! It's 80s Godzilla! Roar! 80s generic Godzilla! Ah! Oh! Ah! Godzilla! Ah! Ah! What's wrong, Godzilla? Toothache. Oh, here, let me help you. Oh, I'm better now. Oh, sorry about your village. Oh.